Hello, I'm Jonathan Milam, and I'd like to speak to you today about a subject that can be very challenging, very difficult, and if you've experienced it, it can be earth-shaking and very depressing. And that is simply if you feel that you have a prophecy for someone and they will not receive it. In many instances, in fact, I think I could write a small book on it, and as time goes on, I'm sure the book will become larger. Although I was raised in a Pentecostal pastor's home, the network of ministers that I've been affiliated with most of my life, while Spirit-filled, seem to be not altogether appreciative of the word of prophecy. And in fact, there just seems to be an elite facet of ministry reserved for pastors, and everyone else oftentimes seems to be on a second tier. And I understand some reasons for that, but nonetheless, it does lead to the fact that oftentimes you might have a prophecy or a word that you feel the Lord has given you that is not received. It can be very frustrating. For years in my early ministry, I strongly studied the Word. In fact, several times I tell people I don't know anyone my age that has a Bible knowledge stronger than mine, and would love to talk the Bible at any time I could. Just did not feel that I found many that had studied more. I could always learn more, always did learn more. But one area that I knew I was weak in was the moving of the Spirit. And it's strangely, but Paul seems to make a distinction at one point. He says, the letter killeth, but the Spirit giveth life. And I strongly wanted that life-giving element of ministry in my life. Of course, anytime the Word is present, I think the Spirit works. But nonetheless, there is a distinction, I think, between ministry of the Word and ministry of the Spirit, although it's best if they work together. The only reason I say that is it was probably well into my 20s before I began to feel any strength in the gifts of the Spirit. And I was so awed by the fact that God was giving me visions and dreams that I was absolutely confounded and amazed that I would have a word for someone and it would be rejected. I remember the first time I had a dream about a man, and I saw his church. He was a very effective pastor, but he was a do-it-all man. He did it all. And I had a dream, and I saw his church where he chose 4 strong men with ministries in his church, and he gave this one that section, and this one this section, this one this section, and this one had Monday night, this one had Tuesday night, this one had Wednesday night, this one had Thursday night. And the church began to grow as that minister poured himself through the strong ministries in his church that he had raised up. And I thought that was phenomenal. What a brilliant idea. I don't think I could have thought of it on myself. I definitely attributed it to God. Was going through a time of prayer and fasting when I received that vision, and I remember calling him up and sharing that with him. And he said, well, thank you very much. And I could tell he was very unhappy. That was only the first of many. We learn to laugh instead of cry. But from time to time, it's led me to wonder if perhaps there was something, a rant about what I'm receiving from the Lord. Am I in error? And am I wrong? And so I have occasionally sought out strong men that were well received for their miracle ministry. And I've just told them, here's a vision that I saw. Do you feel God in this? And always they have said, yes, I do feel the Lord in that. One man responded to me and he said, now, Jonathan, remember, you can choke a man by shoving more steak in his mouth than he can chew. That is so wise. You can give someone more than they're able to handle at the moment. Although, to my way of feeling, if God gives me a vision for a man, the Spirit of the Lord will enable him to receive that. So perhaps the sword cuts 2 ways. Nonetheless, there often is the potential to have a vision or a word from the Lord or a dream that is not received well. And it can be very, very painful if you feel that your prophecies are going unheeded. Your dreams are not being received. I think I will stop at this point and make a part 2 because I don't want to go over long. But there were 3 scriptures that I felt on my heart this morning as I was considering this. The first of them is Psalm 126:5. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. Although it may be very painful for you to have received something from the Lord that is not received, if you persevere, even though you may weep, there will come a day when you will have joy. And then Psalm 30:5, weeping may endure for the night, but joy cometh in the morning. Let God minister to you. Let him soak your wounds, and there will come a time that you will be able to rejoice. And of course, Galatians 6:9, and let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. I do want to show you one other thing. This is a knife. There's a word for this blunt edge here. Tonto, I think, is what they call that. And this knife, it appears old and weathered. My son actually made this knife. He's a freshman in high school, and the wood on here he carved out as well. He wants to be a knife maker. And we have very limited tools. We've got a little grinder that he works with, but it's a very sharp knife. And he, of course, there's a word for the embellishments on the flat part of the blade, and he just practiced on this and made a lot of different cuttings. It looks antique-ish, and it is sharp. I'm not going to draw blood to prove it. But I was thinking today, it isn't the showing of a knife that makes it. It's the grinding. It isn't the showing of a knife that made it what it was. It's the grinding. If you have unrecognized prophecy in your life, if your ministry is unappreciated, it is the grinding that will sharpen your blade, not the showing. It's not the receiving that will make you the man or the woman that you need to be, but it's the time that you agonize with God as you pray for the nations and as you pray for your church and as you pray for ministries around you. It is those things that will sharpen the blade of your ministry and make you what you need to be. There'll be a part 2, but for now, I hope that this gives you some consolation and some joy, even if you have a prophecy that is ignored in your ministry. May God richly bless you, will be my prayer. I'm Jonathan Milam. Thanks for joining.